I'm Megan. Thanks for joining me today for this somatic yoga practice. We're going to do one simple movement called the human full body X, and it'll all be done lying down, so feel free to put blankets or something else on the ground for some extra padding. Where I say simple, the movement itself is simple. We're going to play with some different variations. And this practice is really helpful if you have in what somatics we call a trauma reflex, which tends to show as one side of the body shorter than the other. So you may see it in your own body if one shoulder dips below the other or one hip is higher, those very common signs of that trauma reflex. What it's showing is that the muscles on one side of the body, which are not in the arm or the leg, but in the torso, are gripper muscles. They're tighter, they're not letting go, where the other side might be more laxed, more relaxed, needs a little bit of waking up. So great practice for that. Let's go ahead and get started down on the ground. First, just bend your knees for a moment, place the feet on the ground, and feel free to take some rocking side to side with your pelvis and your shoulders. So we're just getting in contact with the ground. You can let your head go side to side. Make sure you have enough padding underneath you. You can feel your feet rock. And come to a still position. We'll do a short body scan. And in that scan, I'll encourage you to take your legs out long. Most of this practice, our legs will be long. If right now it feels like there's any pulling in your low back with the legs long, give yourself permission to take pillows or bolsters or something and put them underneath the knees so that your low back can relax. So you might look more like this. Feel free to do that. I'm going to pull those out, but that's just an example for you. And then we'll take our body into a position a little bit more like an X. So widen your feet so they're slightly wider than your hips. They don't have to be way out to the sides. We're not trying to stretch your inner thighs, just a little bit. And take your arms out to your sides, not all the way overhead, but just where we feel we are in this X position without pulling in the shoulders. And then breathe. Notice where you're breathing, where you feel the movement of your breath. See if you can land and locate in what feels like the center of your torso physically, and maybe if it's even the center of your breath, wherever your breath is landing in you, or wherever your breath is breathing you. So the physical position of the body is in this X. And we're aware of the center of the X. And we start to create this X position by seeing ourselves from the left toes to the right fingers. That's one cross of your X. Just visualize that as it comes through the center of your torso. And from the right toes to the left fingers. Just imaging or visualizing that space in your body, the other half of the X. The breath goes in and out of the center, connecting those two sides of the X. And if there's any discomfort at any time, always invite yourself to just shake your legs out. You can shift your hips, you can roll your shoulders. The idea is to let the ground completely support you. Take 3 to 5 more rounds, just noticing and feeling rounds of breath in your center. Maybe even feel the back side of the body as it pulls away from the floor on the exhale and gently presses into the floor on the inhale. But it's as if we can breathe from our center all the way through the crossing of our body from the left toes to the right hand and the right toes to the left hand. Let your awareness flow down to just the left leg. And begin to slowly roll the left toes and kneecap up towards the sky. So you might notice your natural position is to let the toes fall outward a little bit. Roll the toes upward, kneecap upward, and the thigh inward just a little. And notice how just that movement has engaged the muscles in the legs, and then release it. If we're doing this to the breath, you can inhale, roll up, and press through the heel just a little bit to create even more of that force. And exhale, release. Just the left leg. So I'm noticing my right leg is trying to get on board. If that's happening, that's another opportunity. You could put a bolster or something underneath the right leg. But we're just seeing about engaging just that left leg by rolling it up. We'll add the next step. Roll the left kneecap and toes up towards the floor, press through the heel, and now actually push so much that the leg line and the hip and the waist lengthen towards the front of the mat. Do that on an inhale, and exhale and release. So toes turn up. So the idea is this movement is what we call pandiculation. We're turning the toes and the kneecap up to engage the muscles in the leg, pushing through the heel, and then lengthening. So the engagement comes and then the lengthening. And really important, the complete release on exhale. If you're not releasing, if you see you're still holding the leg in any way, just give it a little jelly roll side to side. And continue with that movement a few more times. Notice your ability to lengthen your waist and your side body from the foot and the leg, maybe even the hip. But then we're going to switch that out. Leave the leg a bit more relaxed and do that same slide from the hip. So see if you can recruit your side body muscles on that left side to lengthen the left leg forward. So I'm no longer turning the toes and the kneecap up. I'm letting the hip slide the leg forward and then release. You'll notice that the left side is lengthening. You also might sense that the right side body is shortening. The right hip is lifting up towards the armpit. And it's worth noting, only because you want to sense, how is this movement being made? Is it by the left hip engaging and lengthening? Or is it by the right hip engaging and shortening those muscles, tightening them up? And it might be some combination of the two. What we try to be aware of is if we do have that one side that is shorter and tighter, so in my case, I'll use me as an example, my right side is my shorter and tighter side. So it's really easy for me to fall into the pattern of moving the left hip longer by engaging or recruiting the right hip to shorten it. So what I'm trying to do in that case is keep the right hip relaxed, move from the left hip, so that the right hip is moving only in response to the left hip lengthening. So taking that muscular control of, do both hips help to make that tilt in the pelvis? Both hip muscles, and you're also using your side body muscles. Things like the obliques come into play here. Or is it just better to do one side? More importantly, can you control? Can you move just from the left hip lengthening? Maybe you want to try lifting the right hip to lengthen the left. And just do one or two more of these, just playing. And relax. Feel free to shake out the legs. Now see that middle, that center position in your torso, wherever it is for you. It might be the navel center, more in the solar plexus. But see yourself reaching out from that center to the right hand and arm. And this time you're going to make a tight fist with the right hand. And notice as you do that, it will tighten the muscles around the arm. And then reach the right arm up and overhead, kind of in an X position, right? So I'm going outward and overhead, not just straight overhead. A little bit out to the right side. And then release. If we're doing a breath movement, it's inhale, engage, the action, the work. Exhale, release. And feel how sliding the arm, you might feel that all the way into the shoulder blade, maybe around the collarbone, so into the shoulder girdle itself. Be sure to release that fist, let all the muscles relax. Full relaxation may even feel like you need to bend your elbow. Reaching And then releasing. And start to feel the upper right side body or waist. And then leave the arm relaxed, no fist, but sense the right arm and see if you can reach that right arm back from your right waist, particularly around your armpit area and your upper right waist. So if it's the right side, be right up here. So use your side body muscles to slide that arm to lengthen the right side as you breathe in, and exhale, release. Inhale the action. You could always take a few breaths in the end point. Sometimes with this one, it's really helpful to do a slow release. Release like 25% with each breath out until you come all the way back. So we're focusing on moving the upper right side of the torso. And the arm will slide, but I'm no longer reaching through the arm. I'm using my torso to move the arm. And doing one or two more of those. For me, my head just kind of naturally grazes from side to side. If that's happening with you, let the head roll, let it respond however it feels best, keeping the jaw relaxed and the eyes soft. All right, and back to that X. Once again, sense the cross from the left toes to the right hand. And now we're going to put that all together, alternating. So we're going to turn the left toes and kneecap up to engage the left leg, but we're also going to use the hip. So you're going to slide that whole left leg and hip full power forward on an inhale, lengthening the left side of the body, lower left side mostly, and exhale and release. And then right hand, make that fist, slide your arm muscles are tight to the bones, but you're also sliding the armpit in the upper right waist. And release. So moving in this cross body pattern, left foot to right leg alternating. Left leg and hip lengthen. Exhale, release. Right shoulder and upper waist or armpit area, rib cage lengthen. And release. And just continuing with this alternating of one part of the X, the lower part, left side, releasing. Upper part, right side, and releasing. Do one more round, alternating. Remember, you always have the option to stop and hold and feel, and a slow, complete release. And now let's put those two sides together, I should say the whole X. So from left toes to right hand, as you breathe in, turn your left toes and kneecap up, feel the muscles engage in that inner leg, or the whole thigh really, by rolling the thigh bone in. Push through that left foot as you simultaneously make a fist with the right hand and reach through your right hand. So it's like if you were a piece of taffy, you're stretching yourself, the left hip is going forward towards the front of the mat and slightly out towards the left corner of your room. And your right hand and shoulder and upper waist are going back into the right corner of the room. And then you can exhale and release. Think of the freedom of allowing the left hip to stretch and also the right shoulder to stretch. So opposite sides of the body. And just finding that pattern that works for you, whether it's inhale, move, exhale, space of grace, release, or finding a hold at the top of the inhale and releasing. Always checking in that the release is there. If not, remember, you can jelly roll or even give yourself a little hug if your arms get too crabby. Take them back to your sides. Otherwise, continue on. You can imagine that you're standing on your left foot. I like to push through the heel and the ball of the foot, like you're trying to reach something on a top shelf with the right hand. You're trying as hard as you can to make that left hip and right shoulder long to create space and freedom. And then just letting it go back to where your body naturally relaxes. One more time. and let go. Just for a moment, keep your body in the X. Take about 5 breaths into where you feel your center, where we started. And just notice the 2 sides of the body in the cross, from left toes to right fingers and right toes to left fingers. Do you sense any difference? Maybe in the waist muscles or the muscles in and around the ribs or the arms, the shoulders. From that center point, going out to each of the ends of the X, what do you feel? And then slowly bend your knees, slide your legs in, give yourself a little hug. My last video was big and small, so this whole movement is big. Our body's spread out, so now you get to be small. And you can roll your back, massage your low back, let your head roll. Anything organic that soothes your body right now. And we'll come back into that human X position. Feet slightly wider than the hips, arms out to the sides. They don't have to be all the way overhead. In fact, if your arms are off the ground or there's pulling in the shoulders, you're better off keeping them a little bit lower down. And now sense that space from the center of your body and out to the right toes and the left hand. Just feel that half of your human X. And notice what you can see and also what you can't see. It's all part of who you are today. And we'll start with the right leg. Roll your toes up towards the sky, even the pinky toe, so you're internally rotating the thigh and the kneecap up. And then stretch that right leg forward and towards the right a little bit. From the leg. And exhale, release it. So now we're lengthening through the right leg. Toes up, kneecap up. Lengthen. And release. And I'm reminded in my body that this is my side that is gripper, so I'm really going to focus on making sure those muscles are releasing. Notice how you can lengthen your waist from your leg by pushing through the heel, the ball of the foot. So it'll feel different if you flex the foot, pulling the top of the foot towards your shin. So that's dorsiflexion versus plantar flexion, reaching your toes forward. And releasing. So you can play with all, it's all part of the play. Repositioning your foot will feel different. And then let's switch to moving from the hips. So leave the leg relaxed, shake the right leg out a little bit. Let the toes fall out to the edges if that's its natural position. And see if you can take that right leg forward from the hip and the waist. So slide hip and waist forward. And release. To the breath, it would be activity, action work on the inhale. And exhale, let it all go, purge it, release. Now you might notice how as the right waist lengthens, the left waist is shortening. And then we just sense again, how are the muscles naturally coordinating to make this movement? Is it all a matter of the right hip doing the work, or is the left hip trying to pull up as well? Do you feel tightness, for instance, through your glutes, your buttocks muscles in that left side? And if that's your gripper side, try to let that part, that side, that left side just slide. And release. So playing with it's always about finding the greatest range of motion with the most comfort or ease. So that might be a combination of lengthening right side while shortening left side. Just checking to see that your muscles aren't making that decision. Whatever is happening is because you're consciously aware of the muscles moving it that way. You can hold for a few breaths. And there's a muscle right next to our sacrum called the QL. This is just some more informative stuff. So I know for me that what's happening when I'm lengthening this right side is this left QL muscle, quadratus laborum, is really trying to tighten. So as I do my hold, I say, you don't have to do that. I just ask it to relax, because that's one of those habitual gripper muscles for me. So we start to learn what muscles grip on our body when we do these practices and how to release them. All right, let's let that right leg go. Breathe back into your center. Remember, you are a whole, the human wholeness. Feel your human wholeness. And then sense your left hand and arm. Make a soft fist with your left hand. I usually bring the thumb to the middle. And feel the muscles in the left arm hug the bones, and then reach that arm to the back and to the left. So not straight back, but kind of out to the side, like an X position. And exhale, release. You can inhale and reach and lengthen. And let go. And notice what it feels like to me when I move just the arm like this. It's almost like the arm is coming out of the socket. It's not always comfortable for that joint. But I also learn what it feels like for me to be tightening the muscles around my arm, which if you walk around with shoulder tension all day, is going to take you past that point of tension that you usually feel. You're going to tighten them even more, but then you let them go. So we start to recognize those patterns of tension. One more time. And let it go completely. Release that fist. Now let's see if we can slide that left arm using our torso, the waist. So feel the left rib cage, the upper waist, your armpit area, and slide the left arm overhead by moving the waist. Mine did not want to wake up. I'm going to try that again. Left rib cage, shoulder. The reality of doing video. See how your body responds. Does it do what you ask it to? Can you slide your arm by taking those side body muscles on the left overhead? And notice if it's all of that movement is coming from the right side, trying to dominate and lengthen, right? Can you really just use that left upper waist? It's all just an investigation, right? There's no end point, there's no end pose like there is in yoga. You can take Instagram pictures if you want, but there's no final posture. Last one. Relax. Now we'll do the alternating. So sense yourself from your center again, out the right toes and the left fingers. We're going to put it all together by turning the right toes and kneecap up. You can even draw your kneecap up your thigh a little bit to really engage those muscles. And imagine plugging your thigh into your hip, so then the whole thing moves together, lengthening the waist. And exhale, release. Left arm, make a fist. Plug the arm bone into the shoulder blade and reach your arm and your side waist. Upper waist. Think of under your armpit, the lovely rib cage. And release. Right leg, toes up, kneecap up. Reach the hip, reach the leg. That whole right side engaged. You'll notice your left side shortens too. Lengthen through the right. Take a few breaths if you'd like, and release. Left arm, plug the arm bone into the shoulder. Reach the arm, but also reach the left side. Create space in the left side. Release. Right toes up, engage the muscles in the leg, plug the leg, the thigh bone into the hip, lengthen through the right leg. So a lot of this is really about moving one limb and whatever the limb is attached to, so a hip or a shoulder, in isolation. Can we move in isolation? Notice the way your back arches. So as I reach my left hand, your left upper waist will arch. As you reach your right foot, the right waist will arch. And whatever your head wants to do. All right, let's put this one together. So see yourself from wherever you feel your center, breathe to your center. And then we'll be reaching through right toes and left hand at the same time. So right waist lengthening in the lower half, left waist lengthening in the upper half, and releasing. You can choose to engage the muscles in the arm and the leg by pointing toes up and kneecap and making that fist. Or maybe not. Maybe you just want to try to do this with the torso and let the muscles in the limbs stay relaxed. Let your torso take over and have a little fun. So important to let those torso muscles move and freely move so that they can help throughout the day with moving our legs and our arms, among other things. One more, like maybe you're reaching for that item on the top shelf, you're standing on your right foot, pushing into the heel and the ball of the foot, reaching through your left hand in opposite direction. So left hand out or back and out to the left, and right foot forward and out to the right. And let it go. Just feel yourself in that X for a moment. And we'll draw the knees in, arms down to our sides. We're going to take a little break because, again, this is all big, spread out movements. Feet underneath you. We're just going to do a couple rounds of pelvic tilting. So I'm lining my hips, my knees, and my ankles up in what we call constructive rest. You can place your hands on your belly, especially if this is new to you. If you're when you're inhaling, you're going to press your tailbone down, arch your low back so your belly will rise up towards your hands. As you breathe out, gently lay the low back and the low ribs on the ground and lift your tailbone just slightly. So we're just rocking back and forth. I'll move my hands out. Inhale, the low back is arching away from the floor. Exhaling, low back is curling into the floor and the tailbone lifts. Just to give the waist a different movement because we're moving laterally, the side bodies and lengthening. So now we'll do a front to back, or we call anterior posterior tilting. It's a different movement for the pelvis and the torso. Notice if your head is responding. This is really a tail to tongue movement. Let your head flow towards your tail as your back arches on inhale, and away from the tail as you exhale. All right, one more round of your arch and curl. And we'll relax. Back into our human X. We have another way to go. So spread it all out. Make yourself big. Feel your center point. Breathe into your center. And breathe out. Breath in is vitalizing. Think of a sponge. We're filling that sponge. And breathing out is purifying. We're squeezing out that sponge, but just gently. And now we've located our X from the left toes to the right hand and the right toes to the left hand. Just a reminder for yourself. And we're going to go around one limb at a time in that pattern. So we start with the left leg and hip, toes up, kneecap up, draw the kneecap up the leg, plug the leg in, and inhale, lengthen the left leg and waist, and exhale, release, shake it out. Next is the right hand to make a fist, plug the arm into the shoulder, inhale, reach through the right arm, exhale, let go. Right leg and hip. Roll the toes up, draw the kneecap up the thigh, feel the muscles hug the bones. Inhale, reach the right leg and hip forward. Feel the right back arch, the lower back, and release. Left hand, make that fist, hug the muscles to the bones in the arm. Reach the arm and the upper left waist back. Exhale, release. Let's go around like that 2 more times. Cue the left leg and hip, reaching. Exhale, relax. Right hand, shoulder, upper waist, reaching, activating. Exhaling, relaxing. Right toes, leg, kneecap, hip, lower waist, reaching, relaxing. Left arm, make that fist. Reach, lengthen through the upper left waist. Release. Last time around, now you probably have the movement pattern. Left leg and hip and lower waist. Let go. Right arm, shoulder, upper waist. Release. Right leg, hip, lower waist. Release. Left arm, shoulder, upper waist. And release. Take your arms back down to your sides, place your feet on the floor again, arms at your sides. We're going to go back into the pelvic tilting, but we're going to add a little bit more for the arms. So once again, if this is new, I have lots of videos on pelvic tilting, but you can take your hands to your belly to feel as if your belly, as your abdomen fills, it's lifting your low back off the ground, the tailbone goes down. As you empty the belly, we gently press low back, low ribs into the ground perhaps, and the tailbone lifts up. So now, as you're doing this arch and curl, locate your shoulder blades. Feel the shoulder blades where they're resting on the ground. Next time you inhale into the arch in the low back, your weight will go into the tailbone. Also, press your shoulder blades slightly into the ground so you'll feel your upper back arch. Not just the low back and the mid back, but upper back. And then as you exhale and the tailbone lifts, lift the backs of the shoulders. So lift the outer shoulder blades away from the floor slightly, and you'll feel yourself curl even more, not just the tailbone, but the shoulders curl. Inhale into that full back arch. Chin should come toward the chest. Exhale, full back curls. Chin goes away from the chest. Inhaling and arching. And exhaling and curling. So I just like to throw this one in between the X because, again, the X's were pretty spread out, but also to take the spine, what we're doing is we're taking the spine through flexion and extension versus the other movement. The X is a lateral movement for the sides of the body. So we just let the whole spine move freely. Pressing shoulder blades down so you feel at the top of the inhale. You could even stop and hold. Notice how the weight's resting mainly on your tailbone and the shoulder blades. Chin towards the chest. And at the bottom of the exhale, your shoulder blades and your tailbone are lifting, and the weight in your back is resting in the center of the spine, chin away from the chest. And release that. Feel free to slide your legs out long again into the X. Last one we do here. See, I told you there's lots of different ways to play with it. So coming back into the X, breathe into your center, wherever you feel center, and maybe it's moved. Is it still at the navel or the low abdomen? Has it moved more towards the chest? Where do you feel yourself breathing into your center? And then see that center reaching out through the right toes to the left hand and left toes to right hand. Land and locate in your human X. And we're going to alternate full sides of the body, so full sides of the X. So starting with the left toes to right hand, engage the left leg, right arm, and reach left hip and right arm in opposite directions as you breathe in. Exhale, fully release. Right toes, leg active, plug the leg into the hip, left hand. Reach in opposite directions. You'll feel your right lower waist and left upper waist maybe arch a little bit, kind of like in the arch and curl. familiar feeling. Exhale, release. So going side to side from the cross from the left toes to right arm and lengthening opposite sides of the waist. Feel that freedom of movement through your torso. Exhale, release. Right toes to left fingers. Release. And there's again the option, because we're taking control of our muscles. This is all about reprogramming or retraining our muscles. You can use lots of power and force in the muscles and the limbs themselves, so the arms and the legs. Or what I like to play with is maybe letting the arms and legs relax, and can I create this movement from just the torso muscles? So left hip reaching forward, right shoulder reaching back, releasing. Right hip lengthening forward, left shoulder lengthening back, releasing. So not necessarily always recruiting the arms and legs. And what does it feel like to really fully appreciate the way the torso has so much mobility that it can move our arms and our legs? Like your arms and legs are more like a rag doll now. And you're letting the torso take over, be strong, be fluid. Let the head just flow wherever it wants to go. And the importance of noting when the muscles are working for you, when they're engaging, whether they feel long or short, that there is force in those muscles. And then also when they completely release, are they completely releasing? And you can continue doing one or two more as a ragdoll with the limbs relaxed, or go back to that full force of using your muscles and your limbs. Again, it's not just about end range of motion, it's about reaching a comfortable, easeful end range of motion, and then letting those muscles relax. Finish up your last round. And then you can slide your arms to your sides. One last time, take your knees, bend your knees, place your feet on the floor. This time we're just going to end in some, I call it floppy arms and legs. So they're often called windshield wipers in yoga. As you breathe out, let gravity just let your legs fall to the right. Knees are bent, feet on the floor. So you'll come onto the pinky toe side of the right foot, big toe side of the left foot. And in addition to letting the legs fall, if you want to add the arms, flop your right arm across your chest and take your gaze to the left. So your right hip will be going to, your hips will be going to the right side, and your shoulders will be going to the left. Inhale, come back up. And then you're going to exhale, let the legs flop to the left, pinky toe side of left foot, big toe side of right foot. And if you'd like, you can let your arms flop to the right. So shoulders rolling to the right, hips to the left. If we're doing it one breath per movement, inhale to center. And exhale, just fall. Let gravity take you over. Let the movement down feel like your bones are just heavy, taking you into that rotation. So this is the other way we can move the spine. And I'm ending this session with this one because we will now have taken our spine through all of its ranges of motion. That lateral side bending that we're doing in the human X, the arch and curl, or the flexion and extension. And now you get this other newfound freedom of rotating the spine with the pelvis going in one direction and the shoulders going the other. When we can get those two girdles to function independently, that's another whole level of freedom. Enjoy. One last round. Always invite yourself to stop and hold if that's what you need, a little stillness. And then come back to your center. You're welcome to either keep your knees bent, maybe there's something underneath your knees and you want to lengthen them. We'll just take 1 minute or so here at the end to be present in the space of our bodies. Come back into your center. You're welcome to breathe into your center. And feel your connection of both legs and both arms into the center. What feels connected and also what feels disconnected? Can you feel the space from your tailbone to your tongue? The spine running right through the center. Claim it all. It's all yours. You offer some sort of affirmation to your body, particularly your torso, and the way it holds you and connects you, the lovely way it connects your limbs to allow you to do so many wonderful things that bring you joy, all the joy that your hands and arms can bring you, and your legs and feet. All just part of the greater whole body. And we develop that way. We develop from this center of the torso. From that center torso, we grow these limbs, these arms and these legs in fetal development. Three more rounds of breath to your center. And gratitude and love for yourself. You can stay there longer if you'd like. Take your time. If you're going to come up, you might want to roll to one side first. A fetal curl is always a nice place to visit before we come all the way up, maybe even with some rocking. Nourish yourself as much as you can, whenever you can. Say nice things to yourself. Say the things to yourself that you would like others to say to you. Thanks for joining me today for the somatics practice, and thank you especially to my Patreon sponsors that keep this channel going. If you want to sponsor me on Patreon, as little as $5 to as much as $15 a month, I appreciate those sponsorships if you are getting some benefits out of my videos. Peace, joy, love, and light.